for now. Save the battery. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6:30, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Alpharetta City Council to order. I will note for the record that all members of City Council are present and accounted for. And if you would, if you can, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we get to kick off tonight's meeting with an exciting celebration of the Alpharetta High School volleyball team. If those participating would come forward, please. Meet me in front of the desk. Welcome to City Hall.
Thank you.
Congratulations. This is an exciting night. I'm glad to kick off this way. It's good to be able to celebrate things. This year, there doesn't seem to be quite as many things to celebrate as there have been in the past. So we'd love to finish off this year with the last council meeting, celebrating y'all and your accomplishments. And Coach, if you'd like to take the floor.
Thank you very much. It's been quite an interesting year. We managed to keep everyone healthy, get through and have a safe, productive, and fun season. Let me introduce who I brought with me. So I have Logan Wiley, who's 9th grader, Piper Pitchford, 9th grader, Coach Grace Fossier, who's one of our community coaches, and Dr. Shannon Kersey, who is our principal.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the season and the game?
Well, the season was quite interesting. We had to reschedule quite a few times. So essentially at the beginning of the year, all the programs got shut down for the first 2 weeks, and which meant juggling a lot of schedules and playing some typically 2 and 3 game weeks where we would normally do 1 or 2 during the week. We got into the playoffs. We're fortunate enough to stay healthy, and we're able to be competitive and strong.
That's awesome. Couple of young players here too.
Future is bright.
Absolutely. That's the way to start the year, isn't it? You want to say anything?
That's okay.
I'm just thankful that we can have a season, because I've been looking forward to playing volleyball in high school for like the longest time since I was little. So I'm just thankful that I can even be on varsity and that we won state. Well, I won state for the first time And it was my first year, actually, freshman year, so I'm just really thankful for that.
Well, congratulations, ladies and coaches.
Thank you.
Support. I know it is quite an accomplishment, especially in this environment. And we're very proud of you, and we'd like to read this proclamation and then present it to you, if that's okay. You can take it back to the rest of the team and the students. So this is a proclamation by the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, Alpharetta High School girls volleyball team. Whereas Alpharetta High School girls volleyball team won the Class 7A state championship on November 7th, 2020 by defeating 14-time state champions Walton. And whereas Alpharetta High School compiled an impressive 21-4 overall record this season, winning their first state volleyball title in school history. Just the first, not the last.
That's right.
Whereas we would like to recognize all of those who played a part in this impressive championship season: Dr. Shannon Kersey, principal; Dustin Rinspees, athletic director; Grace Fossier, coach; Marshall King, coach; Connor Lounsbury, coach; Trey Hicks, manager. Team members: Lauren Boyles, Lydia Christensen, Layla Estes, Amanda Kilkelly, Ivani Lemons, Sarah Michaels, Trinity Mitchell, Jada Nelson, Ava Pitchford, Piper Pitchford, Zoe Serrano, Andy Thompson, Logan Wiley. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and city council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, do recognize Alpharetta High School girls volleyball for their 2020 Class 7A championship and a remarkable season. Congratulations, Raiders.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Same for us. So I will go ahead and present that to you. And here are copies of the proclamation for all the players.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone
Thank
got
you.
a picture yet? You already got it? Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Thank you.
I hope so. Great way to start the night. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda, and the consent agenda consists of the council meeting minutes from our meeting of December 7th, 2020. Is there anyone on council who would like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell to approve the consent agenda, a second by Councilman Burnett. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. We have 4 items, and the first of those items in public hearing portion of tonight's meeting will be V-20-17, 130 Devore Road, waiting period variance. Mr. Woodman, I believe you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The first item before you is a variance to reduce the waiting period for council consideration of an application for zoning change affecting the same property from 12 months to 6 months. On May 26, 2020, council approved a rezoning and variance at 130 DeVore Road for Michelle Sedgwick to allow for a single-family detached home. The applicant is currently requesting a change to previous conditions of zoning and variance to allow for a change to the architectural style of the home. Therefore, she needs to request a variance to that waiting period to reduce the time frame. Subject property is located on the south side of DeVore Road between Alpharetta Highway and Karen Drive. And that concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions from council on this item? Councilman Merkel.
Michael, just to clarify, if this doesn't pass, the next item is moot point at this time?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay, just checking.
Any other questions from council at this time? Thanks, sir. Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if there's anyone here that would like to come forward from the public to speak on the DeVore Road waiting period variance, now's your opportunity to do so. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll offer a motion to approve V-20-17 Sedgwick/130 DeVore Road, request for a waiting period variance.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilwoman Richard and a second by Councilman Merkel. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Councilman Merkel.
For those on council that weren't here 4 years ago when this place was lined up with developments and projects and potential projects down in community development, we'd get some half-baked ideas that would come in and they'd bring them up here and they'd basically get us to redraw the project for them from the bench. And it was no big deal for them just to go away and come back in 6 months with some changes. So I think at that time, I believe, and I may be mistaken, but I know that the 1 year was more of a deterrent from bringing in stuff that really just, had no business being here. It forced people to really do their homework before they showed up because a year was more of an opportunity to give these guys a break because they'd be back in their office, the next week with what they're going to try to present after 6 months. So I always felt the year time period. I'd like to continue to do that, but I think it was also important when things were really, really struggling to get through here. There was just so much stuff on the table. So that's why I'm in support of this as an exception.
Any other discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
I've looked over the design, and it in no way meets the mercantile description, and so I'm sorry. Forgive me. Sorry, I'll wait for that. All right. Sorry.
Any other discussion?
Where am I? What are you doing? What am I doing?
Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote on the motion. The motion was to approve V-20-17-130 DeVore Road waiting period variance. All those in favor of approving the motion, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. That being resolved, we'll move on to the next item, which was on the public hearing agenda, and that is PH-20-22/V-20-16 Sedgwick Downtown Architecture Variance. Mr. Woodman, you once again have the floor.
Dot camera just went down. His dot camera. Like, it was working when we all worked in here. It just went down.
Well, I will do my best to present without graphics here. The next item before you is a change to previous conditions of zoning and variance to allow for a change to the architectural style of a home. Approval of the applicant's request would allow for the use of a contemporary or international architectural style, which is not approved for use currently in the downtown overlay. There was a previous condition of zoning on the property that required that the architecture of this home be substantially, similar to the submitted renderings, which depicted a mercantile style. And do have the location map up on the overhead. Subject property is located at 130 DeVore Road, south side of DeVore between South Main Street and Karen Drive. This property, as I mentioned previously, was approved on May 26, 2020 for rezoning from general commercial C2 to downtown mixed use to allow for the construction of a single-family home, and the property is 0.29 acres. Property is completely surrounded by commercial properties. Bank of America is located to the north, Seven Seas Cafe is located to the west, and Colony Park Office Park is located to the south and east. Went back and researched any past variance requests to the downtown architectural styles, and I was able to find 2 requests since we adopted the downtown overlay in 2015. Both of those requests were approved in early 2017. Was the Maxwell, so right across the street from this development, the Maxwell was approved for a variance to allow the mercantile style. The mercantile style was not part of the downtown overlay at the time. And then west of Main, over on Canton Street and Canton and Church, that's located in the northeast corner of Canton and Church. That was also approved in early 17 to allow the townhomes in the Tudor eclectic style. Both of those styles were later brought into the downtown code later that same year in September of 2017. And they were added because they were supported by the city's downtown consultant, who believed that the styles were compatible with the historic intent and architectural styles already approved in the downtown. This is the applicant's site plan, and the footprint, massing, the roof line of the structure is completely same as it was when it was brought before you in May of this year. This is the architectural style, the architecture that was approved in May of 2020 with the applicant's request to rezone the property. And this is the current rendering of the home and the current style, which the downtown consultant has described as contemporary or international style. As I mentioned, the footprint, massing, and roof line are the same as the approved design. The applicant's new architect, the previous architect on the property was Lou Oliver. The applicant has a new architect working on the project, Manuel Cervantes, who proposes a simple and subtle aesthetic using local vernacular materials, stone and wood, in earth tones. The renderings show large floor-to-ceiling windows separated by vertical oak columns. And then there's also oak shutters depicted across the ground level of the home as well as the garage. And did want to just mention that I have labeled this this rendering Exhibit A. In Condition 1 isn't very clear as to which rendering the applicant is requesting consideration by council this evening. There are so many pages in there. I just wanted to make sure that we reference this, and I'll add that into Condition 1 when I discuss the recommended conditions. We did send the applicant's proposed elevations to the downtown consultant for review. He did not believe that the style that is depicted achieves the mercantile style or the historic intent described in the downtown design guidelines. However, he did think that the design has merit and should be considered for approval. He indicated that the adjacent examples of design on the south side of DeVore Road are underwhelming, that they do not meet the design, the intent of the design guidelines. He believed that the applicant's design encourages quality development effort and would set a standard for this particular area. And he also noted that the series of walls and landscaping are nearly as prominent as the home, and once that landscaping matures, that the home will likely blend with the surroundings. This was shown to the public on November 11th at the Community Zoning Information Meeting. There was one public comment in support of the applicant's request to change architectural styles. Staff has reviewed the applicant's proposal and finds that it can generally support the applicant's request for change to previous conditions of zoning and variance. While the request does not meet the downtown design guidelines, the design has merit and would set a high standard for the area. The property is not located on a corridor of influence, and just brought that just in case anyone was curious. The corridors of influence are the major corridors through the city: Windward Parkway, West Side Parkway, Old Milton Parkway, Haynes Bridge, North Point Parkway, Mansell, Main Street. Those are the main corridors where we do require any changes to the exterior of buildings to go to the Design Review Board. This is also not located within the downtown core, so approval of the applicant's requested architecture would have less of an impact to the overall downtown. In addition, the other residential properties on the south side of DeBoer, I did have, well, I thought I had a elevation of that. So this shows DeBoer from Haynes Bridge to South Main Street. And so the rest of these residential properties along DeBoer, along the south side of DeBoer, because they are zoned R12 and within a platted subdivision, they are exempt from the downtown architectural requirements. So with that, staff does recommend approval subject to 3 conditions. Condition 1, architecture and materials shall be substantially similar to the submitted renderings as approved by staff. I would recommend before as approved by staff adding labeled Exhibit A. Condition 2, landscaping along the street frontage shall be substantially similar to the submitted rendering and shall be supplemented with additional trees as approved by staff. And 3, all previous conditions of zoning related to Z20-02/V2006 Sedgwick Residence/DeBoer Road shall remain in effect except as modified in the conditions above. And that concludes the staff presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have any questions from council? Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Michael, is stone one of the materials outlined in the downtown Central Business District part of town?
The stone is an allowable material in the downtown overlay, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council at this time? Thank you, Mr. Woodman. Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards on this item? Oh, we might want to actually give the applicant an opportunity to come forward. If you would, please state your name and address for the public record.
I have a microphone right here. Good evening. I'd like to thank you all for your time tonight and allowing me to speak on this again. Michelle Sedgwick, currently 2451 Commerce Street. I'm across the street. So I've had an opportunity to speak with a couple of you on this. I've sent out all the information, the materials, and I understand that that it's no one's goal to be back here again. So again, I appreciate your time and consideration on this. It wasn't necessarily my plan for it to come out like this. I feel it was kind of serendipitous with this whole 2020 and COVID and the time, the way that it worked out. I was lucky enough to, Lou Oliver wasn't really going to be able to finish my whole plan, and I was fortunate enough to find Manuel Cervantes and be really impressed and inspired by his designs. I, on a whim, inquired with him and was thrilled that he was interested in considering working on a project with me here in Alpharetta, Georgia. And we spent a good bit of time looking over and a lot of thoughtful consideration into early commercial mercantile style. He really tried to stay along with that, but take his fundamental design and work something really unique and special into this project. I think it's a really special piece of property, and it's something, you know, I've been in business in Alpharetta for 26 years now. I'm thrilled to be making it my home and build a single family home here. I'd like it to be something, you know, that I'm building for myself, and something that's, I think, going to be a real asset to Alpharetta. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any other questions you've got or anything.
Any questions from council for the applicant? I don't think we have any questions for you at this time.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Kopp, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if there is anyone who would like to come forward and publicly speak about this item, now is your opportunity to come forward. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll offer a motion to approve PH-20-22/V-20-16 Sedgwick/130 DeVore Road, subject to the conditions as read by Mr. Woodman. The change that he did make to the condition number 1 from our staff packet, I will reread. Architecture and materials shall be substantially similar to the rendering in Exhibit A as approved by staff, period. And the conditions 2 and 3 remain the same.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Richard and a second by Councilman Binder. Any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
I think it's my time now. I do think this architecture is significant. It reminds me of when John Portman built a completely modern house on Sea Island, and the neighbors were just in an uproar. We don't have that case here. It is a beautiful, architecturally significant structure, and the reason I cannot support it is it does not adhere to, we've got numerous design guidelines, and we get complimented as a city from having cohesive architecture throughout our city. And other people ask, even at the National Planning Conference, how are you able to kind of create that kind of city with great architecture? And the way we're able to do that is through our design guidelines. And so I think we need to strictly adhere to those, especially. I do understand the fact that this is on the border of the historic district, and we're trying to get those that border that. And I also understand the fact that the architecture that's there now is, for the most part, marginal. But that's the only reason I can't support it. It doesn't adhere to the mercantile or any of the other design guidelines. But I wish you well. I think it's a beautiful, modern, contemporary home. So.
Councilman Binder.
No, it needs to be torn down.
I'd like to thank you for coming up and working with staff on this. I think you did a fantastic job with it. I will say, in the history that I've been here, I appreciate the design guidelines and the historic, we're trying to have historic Alpharetta. I just get a little confused when we add things like Greek Revival, Roman and Italian design, and French colonial, I think, was done one time when I voted. So I don't understand. I'd hope maybe we can change our standards. I think it's great that we have historic influence in the core downtown area, but when we're getting to the outer core, I'd like to see a little bit more ability to stretch out. And I think it does have a lot of touch to what we want to see and what we see around the area. Same thing with around the arts center. Would be happy to see some differentiation. I appreciate with what you're doing, and I thought as we were speaking, it came to me that I'm glad you mentioned 26 years. So I bet when you first invested in Alpharetta, you took a pretty big risk because it didn't look like a lot. Yeah, so I want to say thank you for doing the same thing with DeVore, because it's gonna happen, and you're taking an investment there, and it means a lot to me, and I think it means a lot to a lot of people in the area that you're taking a risk and doing it again 26 years later. So I appreciate. I love the architect style. If there's a problem, I'll add that architect style to the guidelines. So right along with French colonial. So thank you.
Councilwoman Richard?
Thank you, Michelle, for your investment in DeVore. And to your point, I do think perhaps we have an opportunity to relook at the design guidelines and consider making additions to it. We've done that, Mercantile was added after we approved the Maxwell, and Tudor Eclectic was added after we approved West of Main. So I think the international style might be something for us to consider adding to the design guidelines. Thank you.
Councilman Burnett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To echo some of the sentiments of my earlier council members, we play games with lines and where we allow things and where we don't all the time to fit a desired outcome. And there is only, as just a free market person, you buy the land, you don't buy the view. And if you don't like it, you ought to get a team together and buy it and build what you want to see. I'm grateful to see something else, because we complain all the time about seeing white painted brick houses everywhere. And so for somebody to come forward with an idea that's a little bit different, especially me spending so much of my life on the West Coast, I love seeing things that are, new to this area. And I think it's a tremendous value add. And if you look at that area, I don't know how much money you're going to spend, but this looks like a lot. So thank you.
Any other comments from council? Well, I'll just agree with most of the council members that have spoken. I think the guidelines in downtown have served us well, and I think they do serve as great guidelines. But I also think that as individuals elected to lead this city, that it's incumbent upon us to not staunch any creativity as well. And when someone wants to do something extraordinary, to give it fair consideration. I certainly think this is an extraordinary plan, and so I do support the motion. That being said, if there's no other comments, then I'll go ahead and call for a motion to approve, or call for a vote on the motion to approve PH-20-22/V-20-16 Sedgwick Downtown Architecture Variance, and that was with the 3 conditions as read by staff and the change of Exhibit A in Condition 1. So all those in favor of approving that motion to approve, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass 6-1. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for not giving up. Next item up on the agenda then will be V-20-15 Castro/1190 Upper Henry Road Tree Recompense Variance. Mr. Woodman, you're a very busy man this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next item before you is a variance to eliminate tree recompense on 3 single-family lots. Tree recompense on the property is related to a 2017 violation for the removal of trees without a permit, and a 2019 tree removal permit to remove 2 specimen trees. The applicant states that the request is related to financial impacts associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the abundance of trees that will remain on the property. Have the location map on the overhead. The subject property is located 1190 Upper Hembry Road at the northwest corner of Upper Hembry and Harris Road. This is a 1.15 acre property zoned R15, developed with 1 single family detached home currently. Surrounding properties are zoned R12 to the north, which is the Birch Hollow subdivision, R10 and O and I to the east, which is the Creekside at Hembry subdivision and the future site of the Spirit of God Church. And then planned shopping center district to the south, the former Harry's Market, and C1 neighborhood commercial to the west, Paul Patch Animal Clinic. A variance to reduce setbacks was approved on the property in 2018 in conjunction with the development plan to subdivide the property into 3 lots. That's the subdivision plan showing 3 residential lots on the property. The variance approval included conditions requiring the developer to save 10 specimen trees and to make reasonable effort to save 2 additional specimen trees. The variance request that is before you this evening is not related to any of those 12 trees in those conditions. It does not affect those previous conditions from 2018. Unified Development Code requires that specimen trees that cannot be saved be replaced with trees having 3 times the unit value of the tree removed with a minimum 4-inch caliper tree. However, it has been the city's policy to allow individual homeowners a reduction in the replacement value from 3 times to 1 times the unit value. Replacement trees can be planted on-site or on city-owned property or in the right-of-way. And if trees cannot be planted on-site, payment into the tree bank in the amount of $300 per caliper inch may be substituted. Did some research on other variances, similar variances to tree recompense. And what I found, actually, I'm not quite there yet. Let's go back to the two tree recompense related items on the property, which is the top table on the overhead. As I mentioned before, there's a 2019 tree removal permit to remove 2 specimen trees. They're 2 hickories with a total caliper inch of 54 inches, which at 3 times the replacement value would be 162 inches or 41 4-inch caliper trees. The city approved a replanting plan for 130 inches or 43 3-inch caliper trees, which represents staff's allowance for a 20% reduction due to understory trees being easier to secure and more appropriate for the site because there are several trees on the property. As I mentioned, there's also an open violation on the property from 2017. That's for the removal of 16 trees without a tree removal permit. Of those 16, 4 were specimen, 12 were non-specimen. Staff ultimately agreed to reduce the fine. There was a pretty significant reduction in the fine, and that fine was paid by the applicant. And there was tree recompense, and that tree recompense was also pretty significantly reduced by staff. And that does remain outstanding with regard to this 2017 violation and part of the request to reduce tree recompense by the applicant this evening. All right, to the past variances. So we did look at past variances to reduce tree recompense, and we looked at both reductions as well as complete elimination. And that represents the second table on the screen here. And I was able to find, looks like 5 previous requests. All of those past requests were approved with the exception of the 2001 request that was denied. However, I would note that of those 4 that were approved, 2 of those 4 requests represented just a reduction, not a full elimination of the tree recompense, and the other 2 included conditions either requiring additional tree saves or requiring compliance with the tree ordinance, which is in effect just is a denial of that request. This item was shown to the public at the November 11th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There was 1 public comment at that meeting with concerns over an increase to stormwater runoff resulting from tree removal. Staff also received correspondence from a resident in the adjacent Birch Hollow subdivision with similar concerns. The resident was opposed to the variance if the result would lead to increased stormwater runoff. Believe they've had some flooding issues in some of the rear yards within the Birch Hollow subdivision. And then we did receive one additional email correspondence from an Alpharetta resident, just generally objecting to the request, just with concerns with impacts to the overall tree canopy throughout the city. Staff has reviewed the applicant's request and is not in agreement with the proposal to eliminate tree recompense. The city has already agreed to a significant reduction in the tree recompense associated with the 2017 violation. However, since it has been the staff's policy to support reduction in the replacement value from 3 times to 1 times the unit value, we would be supportive of that reduction to the 2019 tree removal permit. And we do support that only because the applicant has indicated that he intends to subdivide the property and develop the property with 3 single-family homes for him and his children. With that, staff is recommending denial of the variance request to eliminate the tree recompense at 1190 Upper Henry Road. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Councilwoman Richard.
Thank you, Michael. In regards to the 2017 violation for you said that the monetary fine was paid, but the recompense of the 10 trees had not been made. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do we typically allow that length of several years to go by as far as an open violation is concerned?
Typically, we don't. There were some on the violation. There were some conditions requiring that to be taken care of, and the applicant, for whatever reason, and he's here this evening, he probably can provide more information than I can, just hadn't moved forward with the request. And in 2018, when the variance requests came forward, that violation had not been resolved at that time.
And in the 2018 BZA, where they granted the various variances for setbacks, was there a condition addressing the outstanding?
Yeah, I believe that there was a condition in there, and I believe that the condition said that needed to be resolved with the ENG, the individual land disturbance permit for the residential lot.
Okay. And do we know if that's been done?
It has not, and I will say that ENG was issued in 2019. We've resolved that issue since with our CityWorks software within our department. We are able now to link violations, outstanding, or any violation to an address. And so anytime we enter in a new process, like a new ENG, that will automatically pop up. Unfortunately, this one wasn't caught because it was just a matter of time until all of our processes were within that CityWorks software. So we're not concerned that we should have those types of problems in the future. That software should take care of that.
That's good
but
to
it did slip through the cracks on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Hypes.
Well, let me first say that Ms. Councilman Richard asked most of the questions I was going to ask, but it prompted me to ask, do we have a rule about whether or not you can apply for a variance or any other relief from the city while you have matters outstanding with the city?
You are supposed to have no violations on the property at the time that you come before a board for.
Is this a valid application?
I do believe that the applicant is trying to resolve. I believe that he's making an attempt to resolve both the violation and the tree removal permit on the property, or it has intentions of doing that, but I do believe it's a valid application before council.
But there is a rule that says if you have matters outstanding, those matters have to be resolved before you apply for the next request.
There is, and I'd be completely honest, I'm not sure if it's just a internal department policy or if it's actually written into the code. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay, we can talk offline about that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Councilman Binder.
Just quick question along the same lines. If we were to deny it tonight without prejudice, would the applicant, can he come back with the same if he fixes the recompense of what he had from the violation and then comes back and reapplies, would that just be a whole new application or with the same application fees or?
If there was action taken this evening, then the applicant would have to reapply with new application, new fees.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? Thanks, sir. Would the applicant like to come forward at this time?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carlos Castro, and I am the owner of this property in that corner. Well, the first thing that I want to say is I really apologize when I cut these trees in 2017. It's not an excuse, but I didn't know the regulations in the city. It was my first property in the city, and I'm so sorry for that. And the reason, I guess, why we have not completed the compensation of planting new trees is because we are planning to build a house. And when I talked to Mr. Shostak, I explained this project, this family project, and well, we agreed that it would be better to make the replanting process once we finish the constructions to avoid damage the new trees.
Is that all you wanted to say?
Oh, no, I want to introduce Juan Pablo. He is helping me with the explanation about the density of the trees in that lot.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Hope you're all doing great. My name is Juan Pablo del Rio. I'm helping Carlos through this process. Thank you. And I also wanted to say that Michael has been great through this whole process. It has been a couple of years, and just to go really quick into the violation, the fee was paid, and then the replanting of the 10 trees was part of the variance approved on 2018. So I don't think that the violation is really open as far as like standards of fees. The plantings will be done, the 10 plantings, and as Carlos just mentioned, David Shostak suggested it to be done when as the development advances. The 10 trees will be part of this first phase, which is the home that they will be.
See the map on the top.
Oh, can they see the map? Here we go. All right, there we go. So the first home Carlos wants to build is this one here in the northern portion of the property, and the 10 trees that will have to be planted to take care of that violation from back in 2017 will be going in at that point in time. As he mentioned, we would like to avoid damage to trees if they're planted so early, especially on a lot that I hope you all can see has so many existing trees already. We really had a hard time with David Shostak locating these new trees inside of the property because it's a property that already has over 600-inch caliber of trees. So, and then we're bringing in a new 130-inch caliper based on code because, as Michael mentioned, we'll be taking down 2 specimen trees which add up to 54 inches. So on top of that, it is part of the regulations, and we're following on this, that we provide a prescription treatment for another 4 specimen trees that are going to be impacted on the property, and those are along the western side of the property and on the eastern side where the new development will be taking place, the first phase of the new development. And so the cost of that prescription treatment is $9,000. It is a lot of money, but the trees are worth it because they're adult trees and they're in great shape. So it's a 2-year treatment for the trees pre-construction, during, and then a year after construction. So That being said, I will leave the rest to Carlos so that he can continue with his explanation.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. My glasses. Yeah, and of course, I would like to follow the criteria and the explanation of Michael Woodman, that this property has really a large number of trees, which seriously impact the development cost and leave few options to replant on site. The staff explained the report that they will allow a reduction from 3 times to 1 time per unit value, which I think is consistent with the city policies in the cases of individual residential lots. And this is basically what we are here tonight to explain about this family project. This is not a commercial project. This is a house for myself and my 2 daughters in that corner, and we are expecting your vote in favor tonight. And that's all I can say. Any questions?
Any questions from council? Councilman Richard, then Councilman Hypes.
Mr. Castro, I might not have understood correctly. When you started your presentation, you said you intended to do the tree recompense from your violation in 2017, because your application is asking for complete waiver of the tree recompense from 17 and your
No.
2019.
Just one clarification. The request of the elimination of the compensation is for the 2018.
2017.
Yeah, 2017. No, the 2017 we are complete that recompense.
I'm not clear on how that's being complete, because the application is asking for
Reply.
waiver on 2017, the violation, as well as the removal of the 2 specimen trees that you have yet to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that was the original application requesting that complete elimination, but of course we are very open to accept the 3 times to 1 time.
So, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but just to sort of make sure we're all clear, the 3 times versus the 1 time is in regards to the 2019 tree recompense for the removal of the 2 specimen, correct? So you're saying you would be acceptable to have that lowered from what staff is currently proposing to the 1 time?
Correct.
And are you also saying you will do the tree recompense from 2017 that's still outstanding, which is 10 trees?
No, we don't include that 2017
Okay.
in this.
So the only recompense you're interested in perhaps considering is the 2019 recompense required for the removal of the 2 specimen, and you're only interested in considering that in regards to the one-time amount, which I think would bring that down to 18 trees, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, okay. So 2017, you are still not, you're not interested in meeting that requirement. Is that clear? Am I clear on that?
You are clear.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I think
No questions from Councilman Hypes? Okay. Councilman Biner?
Bueno, incluir el mismo criterio de 3 a 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's not what he...
Okay.
Can I clarify, please?
Please.
All right. So he's gonna kind of change the petition in the way he initially submitted it from removal of any kind of recompense, which is what you're saying, the original.
Well, you can't really change the application.
Right, so he's
If-
willing to follow the staff support of a change from 3 to 1 for the recompense of the 2 trees that he's taking down, but he would also like to see if that could be included for the 2017 violation of the 4 specimen trees that were also taken down.
So just to clarify, staff's recommendation for condition 2 includes making good basically on the 2017 outstanding recompense.
Correct.
So you're interested in 2 changes to what, okay, I'm clear. I'm clear.
Councilman Binder.
So I've been on a couple for subdividing, and then things, I think it always just kind of ends up happening after the deal's done and the house is built. But having a real issue that there's a current violation, and then we're asked to talk about, you need more. So I don't know what the rest of the council thinks, but would you all, there's 2 routes I see, is approve or deny what we're seeing in face, or would you be willing to work with staff to make good on the current violation? And you can either do that by planting the trees that we're supposed to since 2017, or through a calculation that staff has, pay for the recompense, and then come back to us. So basically put this on hold. You guys can do that yourselves, and then figure that out, or do you want council to vote on this whole application as we're seeing it today, which you currently have a violation owed? So,
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. Yes, so yeah, he'll be willing to coordinate with the city staff as to if the 10 trees that we need to plant to be in compliance with the violation can be planted outside or done to the tree bank, or maybe planted somewhere on the side where they won't get damaged, and then come back for a petition to the reduction. I think that would make more sense.
so you want to postpone any kind of vote today so you can fix your violations that you have currently?
I think so.
I'll let Sam figure out.
Do we have any other questions from council at this time? Any other questions for the applicant at this time? Do y'all have anything else you'd like to share with us?
I shared all I know.
Okay. Thank you very much.
My
We
pleasure.
do appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Have a good night, everybody.
Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
If there's anyone who would like to come forward and speak on V-20-15 Castro 1190 Upper Henry Road tree recompense variance, now's your opportunity to come forward and speak publicly. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilwoman Richard?
Can we ask our city attorney, Sam, in regards to what the applicant just agreed to, which is he wants to withdraw the current application, work with staff, and then come back with a revised application. We need him to withdraw then, is that correct?
My thought would be, it might also be potentially tabled until it was resolved.
Excuse me. Either one would work. The most technically correct thing to do would be to have this withdrawn and the matter taken care of, and then brought back with a clean application.
So how would we go about doing that?
We could just vote to allow withdrawal of the application. And then if they want to move forward, they fix their problem and they file a new application.
So we would entertain a motion to allow withdrawal of the application?
Yeah.
I,
Right, that's,
I mean, if they're asking to withdraw it, I mean, I guess potentially, you know, it's within our control right now. We can allow it to be withdrawn, or we cannot allow it to be withdrawn. And
Councilman Hypes? I think they've left. Oh, there they are. That wasn't, I saw people moving. I thought they, if you don't mind coming forward, sir? So
I have a question.
okay.
Are you willing to withdraw your application?
Can you say it again, sir?
Are you willing to withdraw your application?
Do I have any other option?
It's not for me to decide.
Well, yes, you do have another option. We can vote on it tonight. But it sounded like you were saying you would prefer to withdraw the application until you had a chance to resolve the previous recompense issue.
Can it be tabled?
It can be. We can table it forever.
If the table vote passes.
Right.
It may not pass.
I didn't say that would. I was just
Right, well,
saying, he asked if it can be tabled. And I said, yes, it can be.
All right, so my simple question is yes or no, are you willing to withdraw your application?
Well, I just want him to understand because he's a bit confused and withdrawing will involve like starting the process back from zero, paying the fees, starting with the public meeting. And so if we table it, then there may be allowed if it's passed to come back and request for a change. So do you want it to be withdrawn or do you want it to be tabled?
I guess I want to be tabled.
Table, okay. That's not his call. Okay. Then yeah, no.
Right. I mean, you asked, we will decide
Yeah.
whether to approve your application, whether not to approve your application, to approve it with changes, or to table it. So it's interesting to have your input, and we appreciate you sharing what you would like to happen. But I think the council member was asking if you wanted to withdraw it before you take the chance on us voting it down or tabling it. So I don't know that it will get tabled just because you want it to get tabled is my point.
Right. So hay una posibilidad que sí que
Okay.
entonces si hace withdraw, you can
¿Pueden
apply.
votar ahora?
Sí, pero si hace withdraw, puede regresar otra vez.
Okay.
So, do you want
Hacemos el withdraw y luego tenemos que volver a pagar.
y hacer la aplicación?
Y si hacemos el table, no hay que volver a pagar.
Pero tienen que votar.
Okay. I go for that.
Okay. All right, yeah, no, he doesn't want to withdraw the application. Does not want to withdraw.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Yes.
Could you just say that into the microphone for me? We can use the one that's right there.
No, Mr. Carlos said that he does not want to withdraw the application.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your patience.
That's quite right. We just want to try to get this one right for you, one way or the other. So Sam, are we good?
yes, we are.
Okay. Are there any other questions from council at this time?
No more discussion than question, but I would like to have an opportunity to comment before comment gets cut off, so.
Absolutely. Well, I was about to call for a motion if there's no other questions. Councilman Binder?
No.
You didn't have a question?
I was going to jump my turn. I didn't want to mess with the liaison, though, community development.
That being said, I'll call for a motion.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will make a motion to deny without prejudice V-20-15 Castro/1190 Upper Hembry Road variance request to eliminate tree recompense.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny V-20-15 Castro 1190 Upper Hembry Road tree recompense variance. Any discussion? Councilman Hypes.
Prejudice?
Without prejudice, excuse me, I did not recite that part. Councilman Hypes, I believe you had a comment.
This probably seems to me the best route to go because the route of performance to correct the ongoing violation is to plant trees for houses that are to be built, and the time frame for that, there doesn't seem to be any time frame that's specific when that would happen. And we have tabled other things, and we've, considered things where there was a defined time frame by which time things would happen. So I think of all the available options, this is probably the best for the applicant to get their house in order before they come and ask us for something, in my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize for interrupting, but point of order, we have not gone to the public on this item.
Thank you, James. If there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak publicly on this item, and this is V-20-15 Castro 1190 Upper Hembry Road tree recompense variance. I apologize for not giving you the opportunity to come forward before, but now's your chance. And seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Thank you, James. I do appreciate that. I got lost in the shuffle there. So we do have a motion and a second to deny without prejudice V-20-15 Castro 1190 Upper Hembry Road tree recompense variance. Is there any other discussion? Seeing no other discussion, I'll go ahead and call for a vote, and the vote is to deny the said application. Mayor Pro Tem. And the motion is approved to deny the application. Next item up on the public hearing agenda is PH-20-20 North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan. Matthew Thomas, you have the floor.
All right. Yes, sir. All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is the North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan public hearing. This item is a state requirement, satisfies a state requirement for our Opportunity Zone application, which we have been working towards to submit to the state as an incentive to help with the revitalization, the redevelopment, as well as the attraction of the North Point area. So this slide here really kind of shows the outline of the North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan altogether. This is also, again, just a summary of the North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan, which has been available for public to view as well as properly advertised in the newspaper. Of course, the major piece there is the mall. The purpose of the plan in and of itself, one, is to provide incentives and mechanisms to promote investment in North Point. Second is to spur and support the creation of new jobs and business relocations within and in close proximity to North Point. And then lastly, to meet the requirements necessary to apply for an Opportunity Zone designation through the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. Just to really highlight again some of the features of the Opportunity Zone incentive. It is the maximum jobs tax credit provided from the state of Georgia at $3,500 per created job. It does also have the minimum threshold of jobs needing to be created to trigger the incentive, which is 2. The tax credit can be applied against 100% of Georgia income tax liability and withholding tax. And then I think another very interesting feature is there is no fee for us to apply, as well as the fact that, in previous economic development toolkit items, they've been localized, which means that we've had to approve a certain amount of money for that incentive to be activated. But in this case, it comes from the state of Georgia as a state incentive. So again, no cost to us to pursue an Opportunity Zone. The required conditions, and these are also mentioned in the North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan. These are also mentioned as negative conditions. Unemployment, which of course has been affected by, you can see the map there, the business closures in the North Point urban redevelopment area. That's 24 altogether. Under development, which is highlighted as well, that alludes to in the plan we talked about, this was also brought out in the LCI, there's 215 acres of parking in the North Point corridor. Parking lots and street layout, again, talks about the development pattern of the North Point Mall corridor, which was, again, built for the most part in the 1990s. That favors a very auto-centric pattern of development. And the city's target now is to really promote walkability and connectivity in the North Point area. Structural age and deterioration, we have a map in the plan that also shows the time frame by which most of the developments in North Point were built. A lot of those was the 1990s. Existing land use is also a very interesting one. Again, going back to the fact that you have a lot of parking, a lot of gray in the North Point corridor, and an incentive of this kind would really help to attract jobs, redevelopment, as well as capital investment to help bring the vision the city has for North Point, really to help bring that to fruition. And then under achievement as a business center, a lot of business closures, a lot of jobs have been impacted by the business closures that have created retail vacancy in the corridor. So, you know, that too speaks to the North Point area not truly living up to its potential as an economic and business center. Next slide. I did want to talk a little bit about our existing opportunity zone. You know, interestingly enough, for us as a city, we have experience with applying for these before. The one that we currently have is at the intersection of Windward Parkway and West Side Parkway. Ironically enough, that was actually approved back in December of 2012 by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. This slide here shows that it supports more than 1,500 jobs. That number is actually somewhere close to 2,000 jobs. And I think that really speaks to the attractiveness, the impact of what an opportunity zone can do for an area to help reach revitalization goals. Our current opportunity zone does expire in December of 2022. So here's just a little bit about the urban redevelopment plan process altogether. First is, of course, to develop the actual urban redevelopment plan, and that's kind of been in the works for the last 7 or 8 months, really putting that together. We had to work as a team to do that, pulling information from all sorts of city departments to put that together, but it was a true teamwork endeavor. Second is hold a public hearing, which is what we're doing right now. The third piece is to actually adopt the urban redevelopment plan, which the state does say that the local governing authority has to adopt the urban redevelopment plan. Last but not least, once that plan is adopted, submit it to the DCA. The DCA is the determining authority as to who gets the opportunity zone designation. We really do believe we put our best foot forward in making sure that we spoke of all the different guidelines, checked the different boxes that the DCA is looking for to indicate that, you know, we really could benefit, this area could benefit from an opportunity zone designation. And so the steps are highlighted there. And with that, I'm glad to open it up to any questions or discussion.
Questions from council? Councilwoman Richard?
Thank you, Matthew. When I know we did the workshop in June about moving forward with the opportunity zone and the necessary requirements, and I think we were on a call, you, actually, Councilmember Merkel and I, with folks from Community Affairs from the state, Commissioner Nunn, and there was discussion about what, you know, sort of challenges happen when cities submit and what the time frame is for receiving final approval or receiving, you know, a yes or a no. And I know one of the comments he made was that the application being complete when it's submitted is really key. So my question to you is, are you confident where we need to be as far as having all the components of the application
I am.
complete?
Although it wouldn't be a surprise if the DCA did come back with additional questions. That's not all that uncommon for most cities that do apply. But everything that the Department of Community Affairs asks for opportunity zone designation, we do have that readily available. That's everything from crime information to business, building permit information. All of that documentation has already been assembled. Upon approval from you all, the next steps for us would be to mail them 3 hard copies as well as send them on a thumb drive, this particular plan in front of you. But I do feel that the information we have, again, it's current, comes from direct sources, such as our finance department's been very helpful. Public safety's been very helpful in getting crime data. So I do believe that we have in fact satisfied all the criteria that the DCA is requesting of us.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? No questions for you, man, but I appreciate all the hard work you've been putting in on this. Mr. Thomas, could you read the resolution, please, sir?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, to find that a redevelopment area within the City of Alpharetta, Georgia constitutes a pocket of blight pursuant to and as defined in the Urban Redevelopment Law, OCGA Sections 3661(1) et sec, to designate said redevelopment area as appropriate for an urban development project, to adopt a redevelopment plan for said redevelopment area pursuant to said law, to approve an application for an opportunity zone for all or part of said redevelopment area pursuant to OCGA Section 48.7, 40.1 to promote the public health, safety, and welfare and for other purposes. Whereas the City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, the city is duly authorized elected governing authority for the city, and whereas pursuant to OCGA Section 3661(7), the City Council has determined and hereby finds that within the redevelopment area identified in the North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan, attached here to as Exhibit A, there exist conditions, such conditions as 1, a predominance of buildings or improvements, both residential and non-residential, which by reason of dilapidation, deterioration, age, vacancy, obsolescence, or other causes are conducive to ill health or crime and detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare, and 2, the presence of a substantial number of vacant, deteriorated, or deteriorating structures, predominance of defective or inadequate street layout, faulty lot layout in relation to size, adequacy, and accessibility or usefulness for present or future development, deterioration of site or other improvements, development impaired by transportation noise or other environmental hazards, or a combination of such conditions that substantially impairs or arrests the sound growth of the city, suppresses the provision of housing accommodations and/or constitutes an economic detriment, and impairs the public health, safety, or welfare in the present condition and use. And whereas the City Council of the city has determined that within the redevelopment area there exist such conditions as poverty, underdevelopment, general distress, and blight, and whereas the City Council has further determined that within the redevelopment area there exist such conditions as poverty areas that are in decline, suffering from disinvestment, and are in need in redevelopment and revitalization. And whereas the City Council of the city has found and determined that the redevelopment area meets the criteria of OCGA Sections 3661(7) and 3661(2)(15) and should be designated as a redevelopment area. And whereas the City Council of the city has determined that there is need for a redevelopment project that enables the revitalization, rehabilitation, and redevelopment of the redevelopment area, and that these activities within said area are appropriate and in the interest of the public health, safety, morals, and welfare of the residents of the city. And whereas the city has prepared a workable program to encourage needed rehabilitation, to provide for the redevelopment, and to undertake such activities as may be suitably employed to achieve these objectives in the redevelopment area. And whereas the city has caused a public hearing on the adoption of the redevelopment plan to be held pursuant to OCGA Section 3661(7) on December 14, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. at City Hall, in which the City Council of the city has determined that the redevelopment plan conforms to the general plan of the city as a whole, in which the City Council of the city has further determined that the redevelopment plan will afford maximum opportunity consistent with the sound needs of the city as a whole for the rehabilitation or redevelopment of the redevelopment area by private enterprise, and whereas Georgia law OCGA Section 48-7-40.1 provides for the creation of an opportunity zone to assist in the redevelopment of the redevelopment area. And whereas the city finds that all or part of the redevelopment area qualifies for such a zone, And whereas the city finds that the redevelopment area has undergone significant changes and that an opportunity zone would increase property values, promote economic development, and provide other benefits. And whereas the city understands that the adoption of the redevelopment plan will assist in the creation of an opportunity zone with the approval of the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, now therefore be resolved by the City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, that the City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia hereby finds and determines that the redevelopment area identified in the redevelopment plan attached here to as Exhibit A constitutes a pocket of blight as defined by and pursuant to the urban redevelopment law. And be it further resolved by the City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, that the City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, does hereby designate the redevelopment area as appropriate for an urban redevelopment project pursuant to the urban redevelopment law. And be it further resolved by the City Council that the City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia hereby adopts the North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan and adopts the same as the North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan in the form attached here to as Exhibit A, approves the submission of the North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs for the purpose of applying for an opportunity zone designation for all or part of the area encompassed by such plan, together with an application for such designation. And be it further resolved that any and all resolutions in conflict with this resolution be and the same hereby are repealed.
Thank you, Sam. That's the longest resolution I think we've had on council in a long time. Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if there's anyone from the public here that would like to come forward and speak, now's your chance to do so. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve PH-20-20, the North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan, with the attached resolution as read by the GOAT, Sam Thomas.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Burnett and a second by Councilwoman Richard. And the motion was to approve PH-20-20 North Point Urban Redevelopment Plan and the attached resolution as read by the greatest of all time, Sam Thomas.
I'm glad you clarified.
Any discussion? Seeing none? Well, I would just say this is a big step forward. I know it's taken a lot of time, a lot of detailed work, a lot of follow-up with DCA and things like that, but it continues even during the pandemic to show that we're working for the future, and I appreciate the efforts of Kathy Cook, her staff, all the departments that helped, and specifically Matthew Thomas. So thanks, everybody, and hopefully this will come to fruition. All those in favor of the motion to approve that resolution, please vote yes, otherwise vote no. And it does pass unanimously. So that'll wrap up.
Just texted me and told me, reminded me that he wanted to add resolutions to the just reading the title. Said you regret turning me down.
Motion to reconsider that one. How long ago was that?
Well, several years ago.
I know, I'm teasing. Might be worthy of further consideration. So that will wrap up the public hearing items, and we'll move on to the old business portion of tonight's meeting. Old business will start off with PH-20-16 Unified Development Code text amendments, stormwater and floodplain management. This is the second reading. Mr. Truelove, you have the floor.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present public hearing item 2016 Unified Development Codes text changes to stormwater and floodplain management ordinance. This is the second reading, as the mayor had noted. The only changes that have taken place since the first reading was the text amendments and clarification provided in section 3.3.1 SE. At this time, if y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Just to clarify, have there been any changes since the first reading?
The text change in section 3.3.1.SE in response to council comment.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Thanks, sir. Good to see you back and healthy.
Thank you.
So since it is second reading, we won't open up public comment because I don't see anybody from the public in the audience anyway. So do I have a motion from
So I'll need
council?
to read it for the second.
Oh, thank you, Sam. We do need to read another resolution this evening.
Well, fortunately, this is an ordinance. An ordinance to amend Article 3, Section 3.3 and 3.4 of the Unified Development Code of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, to modify section numbers 3.3.1 through 3.3.9, to remove sections 3.3.10 through 3.3.14, to modify text in sections 3.3.1 through 3.3.9, to modify text in section 3.4 to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate the brevity of that ordinance. Council members, do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, offer a motion to approve PH-20-16 Unified Development Code text amendment, stormwater management, floodplain management, and the ordinance is read by Mr. Sam Thomas.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Richard, a second by Councilmember Burnett, and the motion was to approve PH-20-16 Unified Development Code text amendment, stormwater and floodplain management, second reading as read in the ordinance by grace of all time, Sam Thomas. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve PH-20-16, please vote yes, otherwise vote accordingly. Councilman Binder? And it does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the next item under old business this evening, and the next item is consideration to amend the charter of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, by ordinance pursuant to the Municipal Home Rule Act of 19. I've written on it. Is that 85 or 60? 65. Okay. OCGA 36-35-1 et sec. To permit city council members to participate in city council meetings via teleconference consistent with state law. This is also the second reading. Mr. Thomas, not only do you get to present, but you do get to read the ordinance this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There have been no changes to the ordinance from the first reading. As you recall, this just brings us into a position that's consistent with state law as far as allowing us to do teleconference meetings when there are absences. So I'll just read the title. An ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, to amend Article 2, Section 2.20 of the Charter of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, by ordinance pursuant to the Municipal Home Rule Act of 1965, OCGA 35-1 et sec, to permit city council members to participate in city council meetings via teleconference consistent with state law, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide for an effective date for other purposes.
Thanks, sir. Do we have any questions from council? Seeing none. And this is a second reading, so there'll be no need for public comment since there's no public here to comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. I'll offer a motion to approve consideration to amend the Charter of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, by ordinance pursuant to the Municipal Home Rule Act of 1965, OCGA 36-35-1, to permit city council members to participate in city council meetings via teleconference consistent with the law, and the ordinance is read by Mr. Thomas.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Richard and a second by Councilman Merkel, and that was to approve the consideration of an ordinance to amend the consideration to amend the Charter of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, by ordinance pursuant to the Municipal Home Rule Act of 1965 OCGA 36-35-1 at sec to permit city council members to participate in city council meetings via teleconference consistent with state law. It is the second reading as read by Sam Thomas. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes, otherwise vote no. And it does pass unanimously. Next item up under old business will be consideration of an ordinance to amend the City of Alpharetta alcoholic beverage ordinance so as to change the minimum age for servers from 21 to 18 to repeal conflicted ordinances and for other purposes. This is also the second reading and was sponsored by Councilman Hypes. Sam, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Again, this is a second reading with no changes, and we're simply changing the minimum age for servers from 21 to 18. The ordinance is as follows: an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, to amend Chapter 4, Alcoholic Beverages of the Code of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, to change the minimum age for employee servers from 21 to 18, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions from council? And since there's no public here, and this is the second reading, there'll be no public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Mr. Mayor, I move the council approve the ordinance to amend the City of Alpharetta alcohol beverage ordinance to change the minimum age for servers from 21 to 18 and repeal conflicting ordinances as read by City Attorney, the Honorable Sam Thomas.
I have a motion to approve the consideration of an ordinance to amend the City of Alpharetta alcoholic beverage ordinances so as to change the minimum age for servers from 21 to 18 to repeal conflicted ordinances and for other purposes as read by City Attorney Sam Thomas. Motion was by Councilman Hypes, second by Councilman Merkel. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve as read by City Attorney Sam Thomas, please vote yes, otherwise vote no. And it does pass unanimously. So that'll wrap up the old business portion of tonight's meeting. We'll move on to new business, and the first item on that is public safety vehicle replacements. Director Robinson, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We actually have overall, the budget, we have 8 vehicles and 2 motorcycles budgeted, and tonight I'm asking for 4 of those to go ahead and purchase right now. Those would be 4 F-150 trucks for our fleet replacement program. Total amount, including upfitting each of the vehicles, is $185,704. Again, this is a budgeted item.
Any questions from council? Great job, no questions.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards on this item? Did we lose Ms. Cobb?
We have no comments.
If anyone here is from the public and would like to come forward, now's your opportunity to do so. And seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move council approve the purchase on behalf of the Department of Public Safety 4 replacement vehicles at a cost not to exceed $185,704, price including the upfitting of the vehicles.
We have a motion by Councilman Hypes and a second by Councilman Merkel, and that is to approve staff's recommendation to the Department of Public Safety to purchase 4 replacement vehicles at a cost not to exceed $185,704, including the upfitting. All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. It does pass unanimously. Second item up under new business this evening will be the extension of the IGA with the City of Milton regarding shared municipal court clerk services.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Back in September, y'all approved a 90-day contract, which expires at the end of the year, to share Brooke with the city of Milton, to see if she could operate both courts. And we've been, I think, very successful with that. The first thing we wanted to look at was to make sure our court was run efficiently and effectively before we do anything else. And we're very pleased to report that starting in 2021, we'll be reducing court sessions from 242 court sessions to 206. What that does, it saves bailiff cost, it saves sub-judge cost, it saves interpreter cost. It's not a great deal of money, it's around $30,000, but the entire budget for the court is $1 million. So, you know, that helps out by sharing Brooks' costs with Milton. That's another probably I guess $50,000 with benefits, that kind of thing. And in March, a third improvement will be when we go to e-court, and when people pay their fines online, instead of forgiving the convenience fee, we'll be collecting that convenience fee, which will result in another $36,000 that we were just giving up. So that's working really, really, really well. Brooke is doing a really good job, and I would really recommend we continue for the next 90 days at least with this contract with Milton. I do know that Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell asked early on for my expectations of Brooke, and I have those, and I would like to hand them out to you right quick.
Please do so.
With the operation of the court, the most important thing is of course, our people, our employees. And so I've really focused on that for Brooke to continue to develop herself as a leader and a manager, and then also to develop her people. We have 6 full-time staff there, including Brooke. 2, I would say, part-time staff, the judge and the solicitor. So a total of 8. And by the way, the 6 full-time staff is down from 8 from 2018. We're holding 1 position vacant in the budget. Tom has defunded it. So, and I don't see a need to bring that back unless citations spike and court calendars become so crowded that we have no other choice. But in the near future, I really don't see that. Then with operations, I've talked a little bit about the improvements we've made already. Implementing e-court, looks like March. And then the future vision, of course, is if we can actually merge courts in one location. That location would be in Milton. And Sam has said that that can be done. We can have court outside of our jurisdiction. So all that to say before you tonight is to extend the contract with Milton for another 90 days. I wanted Brooke to report on the reports tonight, the progress we're making with Milton on that possible merger. Okay.
Thanks, sir. Any questions from council? Councilman Binder.
Yes, sir. No, I remember when we first began speaking about bringing Brooke on board, having a report today about cost-cutting measures and that. So I hope this is a good start, but I would hope to see a report of what the actual cost-cutting measures are, personnel, efficiency, and that sort of thing. So this is a good, hopefully a rough draft, but I'd like to see some actual numbers here of what the plans are. Are we going to do this 3 months at a time, every quarter, or are we looking to because I'd like to get some clarity going into the budget season of next year of having an IGA for at least for a year with Milton. But
And that's an excellent point. And, you know, my first thought was just to extend it for 3 months. I don't see a reason why we couldn't I think for 6 months. I don't think we can merge courts and co-locate any sooner than July. So that question was asked to me today, and so I think if you all wanted to consider that, I don't think Milton would balk at that. It's working well for us, it's working well for them, and we wouldn't have to look at this again in late March or early April.
I think, so, yeah, for me, it would be good to not kick the can every 3 months, but at least with Brooke sharing the IGA on that one, but really got to get an answer on. When we brought Brooke in, it was going to be for some efficiency, so would love to see what the efficiency is. I've been very impressed so far with what we have seen, so just need to get a little bit more details.
Sure.
So, Bob, what was the total of the efficiencies that you just relayed in the presentation you gave?
Well, from reducing court sessions from 242 to 206, it saves just under $30,000, $29,400. And that's, we're looking at court sessions just through, I believe, February, and reducing some at the end of the month all year long. If we can continue those efficiencies, March, April, May, June, we'll save even more money. But for right now, we think we can do this through at least February.
So that's $30,000 over 3 months?
Over 3 months, yeah.
Okay, basically $10,000 a month yes, for the first quarter. And what was the savings?
Well, by passing on the convenience fee to the ticket payer online, will bring in, I guess, $36,000 more than giving up on the revenue side.
Is that annually?
That's annually, sir.
So $36,000 yep. Annually?
Yep. Not really counting the full-time position because Tom did not fund that, so I'm not going to count that as far as a savings. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, sharing Brooke with Milton, it's over a year that would, with benefits, it would be at least 50.
Okay. Okay, so by my calculations, $30,000 a quarter would be $120,000 annualized.
Yes, sir.
$36,000 annualized for the fees.
Yes, sir.
And $50,000 annualized if we continue the agreement for salaries and recompense. So that's over $200,000. 120 plus 36 plus 50?
Yes, sir, sure.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Sure.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Richard?
Bob, when you talk about the court sessions being reduced and saving $29,000 over time, are the court sessions reduced because of efficiency gains, or is it because citations have been trending where they, because of the citation trend?
It's actually both. We don't have the same number of citations we've had in the past yet, with Brooke working with Fran to reach out to those who have received citations on better explaining how they can, let's say, adjudicate their case. Clearly, more people are paying online and taking care of their business that way than coming to court.
Mm-hmm. So do we know from a citation standpoint, I mean, other than they're down, are they down 20%, 30%? And is that reflective of what happened at the beginning of the year as far as, you know, shelter in place, COVID type things?
I believe it's had a lot to do with COVID. And off the top of my head, I believe I'm thinking maybe 18,000 annually to 12,000. But I would rather check those figures to make sure.
Okay, I'd like to, yeah, get a little bit more insight on what we can expect moving forward just from efficiencies versus, you know, expecting citations to stay low, because I don't think that's probably realistic. Okay, thank you.
And Brooke, when she presents, may be able to answer some of those questions a little more detailed. Anything else, sir?
No, sir, that's it.
Any other questions from council? Thanks, sir. Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone would like to come forward and speak on the extension of the IGA with the City of Milton regarding shared municipal court clerk services, now is your chance. Seeing no one, will close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I move the council extend the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Milton regarding the shared municipal clerk services, and this motion is to make it through the end of this fiscal year of June 30th of 2020, and for the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Have a motion by Councilman Hyde, second by Councilman Merkel. The motion was to approve the extension of the IGA with the City of Milton regarding shared municipal court clerk services through June 30th fiscal year. Everybody clear on that? Any discussion? Councilman Binder.
Brooke, I'm excited you're on board. It seems everyone's got a shot in the arm with you coming on, so it's good. I know a big thing that was promised because there was an act of faith of increasing the role, and that was a document that we were waiting for in December to see what improvements are there. What I got in my hand is just frankly disappointing, and I would love to know when the document was created. We have a little bit of meat on the bone on what was promised. So this court department's been inefficient, and that's putting it nicely, for a couple of years. So would like a little bit something better than what I got in my hand today. So it definitely wasn't up to the expectation of what I was promised.
Any other discussion? Councilman Hyde.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I'm encouraged by these numbers of what the efficiencies are as a percentage of this overall department. I suspect that's probably as significant of a savings as a percentage of a department as is measured against any department. And I don't know what that percentage is, but I know it's a very small staff, relatively speaking. If we did that type of percentage savings in public works, we'd have a huge number. And so granted, there may have been inefficiencies in the past, but given that this program that we've started with Brooke has just, started very recently in a relative sense, I think we're off to a great start. I think we've got a great future. I'm excited about the e-filing and bringing the technology efficiencies into the department, much like Chief Robinson has done with the public safety and using technology. So I think we're headed in a great direction. To Councilman Binder's point, I look forward to seeing what those actual numbers are and those details, but clearly we're headed in the right direction, and I think it's a great sign.
Any other discussion? I'll go ahead and call for the motion. But the motion, or call for the vote, the motion was to approve the extension of the IGA for the City of Milton regarding shared municipal court clerk services through June 30th, 2021. All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. So that'll wrap up the new business portion of tonight's meeting. We'll open it up for public comment for all of you that came to publicly comment this evening. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Reports. Ms. Lappin, I believe you were already introduced as having a report this evening. If you don't mind coming forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to give you a little bit more information about what Mr. Reese had discussed in regards to a few of the efficiencies. We did reduce some of the court sessions, in part because of how many citations are being written right now. That is a lot to do with COVID, but also they are now not, there are the school zone speed cameras that a lot of citations are being issued through that civilly as opposed to officers issuing citations. So we don't see the tickets come through the courtroom, but we're still seeing the violations and the funds coming in that way. The other for, we've always had 2 sessions on Tuesday and Wednesday for arraignments. We've had a visiting judge every Wednesday to handle those arraignments. And Thursdays are our trials and compliance calendars. So on Wednesdays, what we've done is instead of having a full in-person court session, the solicitor and I have come up with a program to offer Zoom type hearings. So we've sent letters to people that are eligible for pretrial programs to try to give them an option to do that, A, for COVID, to reduce the amount of people that are coming in the courtroom, but also to speed up the process so we're not resetting cases over and over and over. So they know what they need to do prior to coming to court, and then when they come to court on their court day, they're ready, pay their fine, we get them out the door. We don't have to, again, reset cases over and over. So as he did say for the online payments, we will go fully to government windows, which is the credit card payment system that we use. We will go fully to them once we start e-court, hopefully sooner rather than later. I went ahead and started December 1 taking credit card payments in person and over the phone through government windows. So the only payments we are incurring fees for right now are people that are paying their fines online through CourtTrack, which is the current software that we use. Any other payment is being done through government windows, and those fees are being placed onto the citizen or defendant as a service fee. Since the beginning of December, that's about $1,600 just in credit card payments since December 1 that we haven't had to cover fees on. These sessions that we removed, and one of the reasons I haven't been able to get the full strategic plan, which my goal is to have it at the retreat in January, is I've been putting out a lot of fires. So we have a GCIC terminal, which is how we run our criminal driving records, everything we have to have for every single case. When I had to send in my information that I'm the new clerk, it started to prompt them that we have not been audited in quite some time. So I'm preparing for the audit in January, and so that has been the majority of my updating policies and getting us so that when we have that audit, we will pass and be clear. The other thing is there's not currently an SOP in the municipal court. So before I can come up with a full strategic plan, I need to have an SOP and make sure that we are all adhering to those and that everything is going through the process so that I can come up with a full strategic plan and how to cost efficiencies. In regards to the merger with Alpharetta Court, or with the Milton Court, I meet with the assistant city manager with Milton every 2 weeks. During those conversations, we've had multiple meetings with the furniture company that provided the furniture for the new complex. We have determined that there is plenty of room for both courts to function out of that building. We don't have court on the same days, so that's not a conflict. And that's also including possible increase of court sessions based on a growth of citations and for both cities. Sorry. And we've also met with both IT departments for both cities to determine it, much above my head with the IT conversation with security and networking, but they've both come up with options on how to make sure we are able to access Alpharetta Network securely at the Milton complex. Again, I'm not sure the specifics on how that is done, but they have lots of notes on how that needs to happen. But that is all I have, if anyone has any questions.
Any questions from council? Councilman Binder.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you have been putting a lot of fires in recently this week, so.
Yes.
The audit that you're going back to, is that something that was supposed to be done on an annual basis, or just,
So
it was
the state, you're
periodic?
required to do it every 3 years. They have an auditor person for every area. Fulton County has one that audits every jurisdiction within Fulton County. They've redone the map, and I think we just kind of fell through the cracks, and so we hadn't had one in quite some time. But I'm getting prepared for that. We'll have it all.
Thank you. Thank you for getting us up to speed.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
This is just a specific question. I'm curious about the speeding ticket on the new devices that we use. It was never done as a revenue source, but speaking of it as that, how does that work? When someone is issued a ticket, how do you know that? Is it only after it's been paid or what?
Yes and no. So if I don't see if you're issued a ticket specifically, if you argue the ticket or want to come in and speak to the judge or have a hearing on that ticket, at that point we're notified about it, and that's when it would come into court. But the majority of tickets are paid online ahead of time before I even find out any information.
So you don't have a tracking mechanism from the company that indicates that this ticket has been issued and?
I don't. I'm sure I believe Captain Simpson, if I'm correct, is the one that handles that, and he's the one we interact with in order to find out who's requested a hearing. So I don't have specific numbers. I only have the numbers of the ones that physically come into the court.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on board.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez, anything else?
Council, my last report is an update on the Safe Hotel Ordinance. The ordinance called for a review or come back before y'all by the end of the year. So because of time constraints, staff has met several times. We have documented every call that's come into a hotel this year. I'll hand out a summary of those, a summary sheet with the calls. Thanks, James. We've included every call, even though the ordinance called for some of the calls not to be included because they could have led to a police report and arrest, that kind of thing. We wanted to be inclusive of everything as we look at the ordinance and possible changes to it. The purpose tonight was to really give y'all this information. Director Robeson and Ms. Cook are here to answer any questions on it. Stephen Jones, the attorney, is working on the ordinance and a red line version of it with recommended changes. I believe he can get that to you this week, and then we would bring it to y'all January 4th for further consideration of the ordinance.
Any questions from council? Councilman Burnett.
Bob, would it be fair, given that I have to feel like not having the ordinance in front of me, but I have to feel like there is a pretty significant, 2020 is a pretty significant outlier with respect to data on hotels and where the metrics were set. So would the red lines that you guys would like to make consider the fact that our hotels are virtually unoccupied? Thank you.
Well, that's a good point, and I think that along with some other issues, we have to take a look at to see if the percentages for tiers need to be adjusted or not. So, you know, that's certainly something that we need to discuss.
And just for clarification, our hotels aren't vacant right now. They're about 45% occupancy rates, just to give you a frame of reference. So they're definitely taking a pounding, but they're up to about 45% occupancy of what they were before. Any other questions from council? Thanks, sir. Any council reports? Councilman Binder?
Last week, the chamber had Leadership North Fulton and Alpharetta hosted. We changed it up a little bit. We said for Government Day, we let staff take control since they did 90% of the work anyways. The group really enjoyed it. We had Mayor Gilman, thank you very much for kicking it off and showing kind of what we had for our vision of coming up and what we're dealing with today. And then Director Cook and Mr. Drinker did a great job following up, and then they followed up with a simulation of how they would fix our North Point problem. So I'll make sure to hand those notes off there of what they did. But they had a good time, and it was because of our staff probably showing, I think their eyes, the students' eyes were wide open about how government functions and what goes on behind the scenes. And so our staff did a great job of showing that. So thank you all very much.
Councilman Richard?
Just a reminder, early voting started today for the runoff, our 2 Senate runoff races, and just remind everybody to get to the Alpharetta Library and vote early if you can. Thank you.
Any other reports? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have made it to the final meeting of the Alpharetta City Council. I do have the sad announcement that we will be adjourning into executive session, assuming I get a motion and it passes. So I will have to call for a motion to adjourn into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Merkel and a begrudging second by Councilman Binder. All those in favor of adjourning into executive session, please vote yes, otherwise vote accordingly. You violated the charter by abstaining. It passes 6-1 with 1 abstention. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience, your support. Hope you all have a wonderful Christmas, Happy New Year, and look forward to seeing you again on January 4th as we continue to do great work in the city of Alpharetta. Good night.